This is called a waiter's
Yeah, that
corkscrew.
one looks professional grade.
Right? They're easy for a waiter to keep in his pocket. I happen to like these.
Right.
To me, they're easier for me to use.
Well, you do this probably a little bit more than the average person too.
Well, I don't know that I open that many. A lot of times there are people opening it for me.
Oh, okay. Well,
I
that's
get to
all
try
right.
a lot
That's
of
a
wines.
serious looking implement there.
Yep, there's a little knife on the end, and that's used to cut the foil around the top. Years ago, they used to be actually lead capsules.
Really?
Yep, with all the problems with lead bad for your health and stuff.
Yeah.
Most wines have gone away, and they use either like a tin or aluminum or even a plastic capsule. So what do we want to? What you'd rather? Want to try the Chianti?
Chianti's
Let's try
great.
the
Chianti's great. I like Chianti. I enjoyed it when I was in Italy, and it's being grown up in an Italian house, it was always available.
Actually, had Italian ancestors too.
Oh yeah.
My
I'm
great-grandfather.
of Italian descent. My grandfather was born in Italy, and always had the one in the basket though.
Yep, that's nowadays. It's the basket one isn't always the best Chianti.
Right.
It's more of a showpiece type of.
Right, but I don't think his actually had labels on it, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I know. My great-grandfather had the gallon jug. He used to make the wine right off the grapes that sat outside the
Right.
front door. And
My
so-
mother's relatives are from the deep south, and they used to make something else when they put it in a jug. Had a corn cob stopper on it. And let me tell you something. Smooth, but what a kick.
Yeah. So we'll start with opening. The first thing you want to do is let's get the top of the capsule.
Well, that thing works nice. Okay.
All right. At the top of the capsule,
Yeah.
so you can see the cork.
Okay. Now.
Then
cork,
we make sure that we
put that
put
away.
the knife part away so we don't
Right.
cut ourselves.
Now cork is still the primary way you want a fine wine has a cork on it, right?
Not necessarily.
Okay.
I did bring.
Aha.
This is. Put this in place here.
Okay.
This is Shiraz from Australia.
Okay.
And if you notice, it actually has a screw cap.
Really?
A lot of your southern hemisphere, Australia, New Zealand, they use screw cap.
Really? Now cork is part of a tree, is it?
That is correct.
Okay.
From Portugal.
Okay.
It's also a living organism when they cut it off the tree.
Yeah.
There's always been trouble with cork. You know, sometimes you get a bottle that they say is corked.
Okay.
Has a real musty or moldy smell.
Really?
That smell, I seem to have a real, you'd say, I can smell it. If you put the bottle 10 feet over there, I smell it.
Yeah,
It's
you've got
one of
radar
those-
for
yeah,
it. You could pick it right up.
It's one of those.
Yeah.
There's also a lot of people use synthetic cork now.
Yeah.
The thing that they found when using synthetic cork is they have to make the neck of the bottle stronger.
Okay.
Because when pushing in with the machine, there's not the give of natural cork that there
okay.
is with synthetic.
Oh, okay. Wow. That's
So
a lot to learn about corks. So okay, here we go.
we're gonna open that up. I'm gonna.
I think everybody who's ever done this has had a problem with the cork going in the bottle at some point or another.
Yeah, and if that's the case, you're almost better off just pushing it all the way in. Make
Right.
sure it's in, because when you go to pour it,
Yeah.
the cork will float that away.
Yeah.
So you want to make sure you've turned it in far enough. Some people don't turn the corkscrew all the way in,
Right.
and you end up getting half of the cork out.
Right.
So, and you're sitting there and you're enjoying that wine, and you want to enjoy that wine, and you go, ah. So you want to make sure that the the edge of the corkscrew
Right.
is on the top of the bottle,
Yeah.
and then you just use it like a lever.
Oh, very nice. Get that now. See, it can be done, folks at home. You can see this now. Oh,
And a
and
little
there's that
pop,
sound. Yeah.
Yep. So a lot of restaurants will say to you, "Do you want to
Right.
smell the cork?"
Fancy ones. Yeah.
Well, you don't necessarily have to. You're better off if you let them pour a little.
Into the glass.
Into the glass.
Yeah, I wouldn't know what to smell on the cork. It smells like wine.
Yeah.
I mean, like, but it's a neat color, that's for sure. Oh, look at this. Look at this. Do you need to check my ID or anything?
I think you are old enough,
Okay.
young man.
All right. So now I take a whiff of this.
Now, if you want to, yep,
It smells
has a
good.
nice
It smells
nose.
real good.
Now I want you to put the glass on the ground
Okay.
and just spin it around a little bit. Get it swirling a little bit,
Oh, I'm good at swirling things, but
and
that's
then you then take a sniff.
okay. Oh wow, I see it kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They call that the legs of a wine.
That's good Chianti.
That
Is good Chianti. That's very good. It's not overly sweet.
Nope, it has a nice finish too.
Yeah. No, I know.
A little,
It's got no aftertaste. I like that.
And some people ask,
Oh wow, it does, yeah, you can see the legs. I don't know if you can see. I don't know if the camera can see this or not, but it's got.
well, what do you do?
It's a little thicker. You can see it. Yeah. I don't know if this will work. We'll try it. I don't know if that'll come out or not. But yeah, you can see that pretty good from
They
here.
call that the legs of the wine.
That's interesting. It's a little thicker than you think it is.
Yep, wine is,
It's a little thicker than like water. Yeah. Try it again.
Yeah.
Watch this. We keep doing this. Hey, hey, what the heck? That is very good.
So another thing too, while we've opened it up,
Yep.
people say, do I have to let it breathe?
Right.
Now, if you don't, the thing with wine is that, especially wine that's being bought nowadays, unless you can find a store that has some real older vintages, the wine is pretty young. The one you have there is 2007.
Okay.
So it's really not that old.
Right.
When I started, it seemed like the wines were much older before you sold them.
Okay. So now I got a big question for you.
Uh-oh.
Drum roll. Now is older better in every case?
Not necessarily.
Okay. See, now we're getting somewhere. So older is not better.
Nope.
All the time.
Nope, not all the time. There are some reds and things like port that can last hundreds of years. Port is a fortified wine that originally was brought from Portugal and England to India.
Right.
And to make that trek, they used to fortify the wine with brandy.
Oh, okay.
It's much, it ends up being sweeter, and it has much higher alcohol content.
Right. What do these typically have for alcohol content? Typically.
Most of your reds have anywhere from 12 to 14 and a half.
Okay.
Your whites tend to be a little less.
They're a little lighter.
Yeah, but I think like a Sauvignon Blanc has, and they vary. This one has 14 and a half.
Okay.
So anyway.
All right. So let's continue with what we've got here. So we're down the line.
So, all right. So anyway.
Unless you're not done with that now.
Well, you're still working.
Oh, that's all right. I'm just fine. It doesn't get any better than this, I'll tell you.
Well, the thing is, you look at these wines, and they all have slightly different labels.
Okay.
Okay. You have your American wine.
Yep.
I don't know if you can
Kendall.
look at that one. The label's pretty straightforward. You have the producer, which is Kendall Jackson.
Right.
You have the varietal. On this one, it happens to be Merlot. They actually put where the grapes were harvested.
Right.
They have Sonoma, they use 61%, Napa 23%, and Mendocino County 16%.
So you've got a lot of information on these labels.
Yeah.
Because that's another thing is like how do you know to pick out a wine if like I mean I know how I do it, and that's go see a guy like you and say this is what I need, what can I do?
Right.
But how do you read these labels? That one's self-explanatory.
That one's very easy.
All
Now
right.
you get something like the German wine label,
Oh boy.
and there's a lot of information on that one.
Right.
Usually, somewhere at the top, you have the region it comes from.
Okay.
Then you usually have the producer. You have a vintage.
Right.
You have the ripeness.
Okay. Now, what does ripeness mean?
It's going to be how sweet it is.
Okay.
In cooler climates, as the wine stays on the vines more, and they actually have little tools and they measure they call it the bricks, which is the amount of sugar that's in the wine.
Wow.
And that's how they get the sweetness. They wait till it has the right level, and then they harvest the grapes. And the thing with German wines too is they actually list the village and the grape varietal.
So there's a lot to learn on just on the label. So this stuff all means something then.
Somewhere
So
to somebody.
Yeah. No, to a lay person you
Yeah.
wouldn't know. You look at it and say, yeah, that looks expensive. All right, I'll get that. You know?
Right. And then what I did too is now this is the American version of Riesling.
Okay. I'll move this one over there.
And as you can see,
I just want to look at this so I know what I'm looking at.
Yep,
Okay.
it's a much easier to read label.
Right.
There's a kind of a movement with some of the producers coming into the country, and they're getting they call Americanized, and they produce, even though it's imported, they might produce a label more like the American Riesling.
Okay. Yep, I'm just looking at this. This is very nice. Now this wine you typically have with.
Well, you could do
I mean.
that Riesling is a great wine to have this time of year with turkey.
Right.
It's also a great wine to have with ham. It stands up to the saltiness of the ham. You know,
Okay,
ham's a
yeah.
little salty. If you like spicy Chinese or that type of fare, Riesling goes very well with it.
Really? Okay.
Yep, it stands up to the spices. It doesn't hide. You know, you
Right.
get lighter wines, or it's a little heavier bodied than say a Sauvignon Blanc or Chardonnay, and it stands up to those.
Well, that's good. Yeah, so I'll tell you this. What else have we got here now?
Well, like I said, we brought a Shiraz from Australia.
Okay, now that is typically, what is that now? That's a heavier wine, is that?
Yep, it's heavier, but it's also can be made in a very fruit forward, lots of fruit up front, few spices on the finish, peppery or.
Yeah, Australian wine has made quite an impact here, what, in the last maybe 8 or 10 years, would you say?
Yep, there's a wine called Yellowtail.
Right, Yellowtail.
Yellowtail came in and kind of set the mark and
Right.
produced inexpensive wines for in good quality.
Right.
One of the things that a lot of people don't realize is box wines. I didn't bring one. I didn't think of it, but when you go out of this country, a lot of Australia, Europe, they drink a lot of their wine out of boxes.
Right, here it's something Larry the Cable Guy makes fun
Yeah,
of. but-
although there are some that are coming along that would be considered much better quality than the typical,
Right.
you know, almond in or whatever.
Right. Now, us Italians along Christmas, a lot of the Italians do the 7 fishes, you know, Christmas Eve dinner, the whole 7 fishes. And all. What would be a good wine to go with something like that? A lot of like heavy seafood based.
Well, I actually like Sauvignon Blanc.
Okay.
It's just a very food-friendly wine. It doesn't. You don't want your wine to overpower your meal, and you don't want your meal to overpower
Right.
your food.
So you want it to be a good accompaniment.
Right. You want it to